Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Trinadapi Suni Chena Tarod Eva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Hare Nama Hare Nama Eva Kivalam Kalo Nastyeva Nastyeva Gatiranyata. For my first little reading, this is entitled Krishna Visits the Pandavas. The Pandavas at this time are in the forest. They have to stay in this forest for 13 years, as was the rule of the dice game, the second dice game. In the first dice game, they lost themselves, they lost their treasury, their kingdom, they even lost their wife. Then it was all given back to them by the mercy of Dhritarashtra. But then Shakuni and Duryodhana devised another scheme because they felt that they had been gypped because of their father Dhritarashtra giving it all back. So another dice game was conceived. This time whoever loses has to go to the forest for 12 years, and then the 13th year have to live 1 year incognito, and if discovered, another 12 years. So of course Yudhishtira, doing what he feels is the proper action, agrees to the dice game, which of course Shakuni wins because he is the cheater of the cheaters. He is the best. He's the personification of cheating. They should make him the patron saint of Las Vegas. And of course the Pandavas lose, and so they have to go to the forest. Within that period, the Pandavas are visited by Vyasadeva, by Markandeya Rishi, by other saintly persons, and sometimes Krishna comes to see them. So this is one time when Krishna came to visit the Pandavas. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 When Krishna heard the news that the Pandavas had been exiled, he decided to go and see them in the forest. He invited Balaram, Dhristadyumna, Shikandi, and many other kings to accompany him, along with Subhadra and her son Abhimanyu, and together they rode to the Kamyaka forest. Seeing Yudhishtira and his brothers dressed in deerskins and stripped of their kingdom, both Balaram and Krishna were enraged. Krishna said, I cannot tolerate this injustice. The earth shall drink the blood of Duryodhana, Karna, Shakuni, and that fourth one, Dushashan. So interesting, Krishna refers to him as the fourth one, because it was Dushashan who was trying to disrobe Draupadee. After we kill them and their followers, we will install Dharmaraj on the throne. Those cunning men, the Kauravas, deserve to be slain. This is quite in accord with eternal morality. Krishna's anger blazed. It seemed as if he were about to consume the creation. Arjuna quickly sought to pacify him by recollecting his many wonderful deeds. Arjuna prayed, "O Krishna, the great Rishi Vyasadeva has told me that you are the cause of creation, that you are the mover of all minds, and that you are the beginning and end of all things. All asceticism rests in you, for you are the embodiment of all sacrifice and the eternal supreme person. All the demigods, devatas, depend upon you, and you are the origin of the universal creator, Brahma. O mighty-armed Keshava, you have appeared many times on earth in many different incarnations." Accepting Krishna as even the cause of the Almighty Lord Vishnu, Arjuna described various Vishnu avatars, all who had appeared in past ages. "O Krishna, as Narasingha, you slew the mighty Asura." Who was that? Who did Nrsimha kill? Hiranyakashipu. As Aditi's son, what's Aditi's son? Who's the incarnation? Anybody know? Vamana. Vamana. You swept away the entire universe with how many steps?
3 steps.
3 steps. O soul of all beings, covering the heavens, you dwell in the body of the sun and imbue him with your own effulgence. Why don't you sit here? Arjuna went on to describe Krishna's activities in his present appearance. Arjuna said, "You have killed numerous demoniac kings who were fierce enemies of even the demigods. O Janardhan, you have manifested here on earth the sacred and eternal city, Dwaraka, which abounds in opulence and is always crowded with rishis. Envy, untruth, malice, and cruelty are absent in you, for you are always the well-wishing friend of all creatures. Narada has told me that at the end of the Yuga, all things movable and immovable will enter your body. O Krishna, there is no limit to your glories. I have spoken of only a minute part." Same thing Krishna says later when he speaks Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 10, Krishna explains his Vibhuti Yoga, how he can be seen throughout so many different aspects of this creation. And at the end, Krishna says, "But Arjuna, what need is this? Just understand, with just a tiny spark of my splendor, I pervade everything." Arjuna continues, and as he spoke, Arjuna felt himself becoming overpowered by transcendental ecstasy. His voice choked up, and he was unable to continue. Pleased and pacified by Arjuna's expression of love, Krishna then said, oh, this is nice. Look what Krishna says to Arjuna. "Arjuna, you are mine, and I am yours. All that is mine is yours. One who hates you, Arjuna, also hates me. And one who follows you also follows me. Formerly, you were Nara, and I was Narayan. Although we are individuals, we are like as one. No one can understand our oneness and difference. To be continued. Everybody chant the Maha Mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this next little part is called Draupadee Questions Krishna. So it's the same scene. Krishna has arrived to see the Pandavas. Now Draupadee. With her dark beauty enhanced by her soft deerskin clothes, Draupadee came forward with folded hands and said to Krishna, O irrepressible one, all the great rishis have described you as the Supreme Person. The entire universe exists in you, and you are the refuge of all ascetics and sages. Even as children sport with their toys, so you sport with the celestials. Those seeking your protection are never overcome by calamity. O slayer of demons, how is it then that one like me, the wife of the Pandavas, the sister of Draupadee, and your friend, how could I have been insulted by the Kauravas? Interesting. Who better to ask than Krishna himself? God is right there in front of you. Who better to ask your question? Let's see what Krishna says. She's put him on the spot. Draupadee's dark eyes filled with tears as she spoke. Subhadra also wept as she stood with her arm around Draupadee's shoulder. As she recalled the dice game, Draupadee became angry, so she's got more to say. O Krishna, why did my 5 powerful husbands sit silent while I was humiliated by wicked men of no importance? Fie upon Bhima's arms, fie upon Arjuna's celebrated Gandiva, for they could not protect a woman in distress, not even their own wife. Fie upon Bhima and Dhritarashtra. Although I am their daughter-in-law, they were prepared to see me a slave, because what happened was, after she was lost in the gambling, Duryodhana, Karna, and Dushashan said, now you are now our slave. So they weren't even going to treat her like a wife. They were going to treat her like a slave. What an insult. So I'm sure you all can appreciate Draupadee's feeling. Draupadee hid her face with her soft hands, which resembled lotus buds. Her shoulders shook as she cried. Regaining her composure after a few moments, she took a deep breath and concluded, O Krishna, you are my only shelter. I deserve your protection for 4 reasons. I deserve your protection due to our family relationship, our friendship, the respect you bear for me, and the fact that you are my Lord. Krishna replied, O fair lady, you will see the wives of those with whom you are angry. You will see them weep as you now weep. They will weep when their husbands lie dead on the battlefield, their bodies covered with arrows, weltering in blood. Do not grieve. I shall do for the Pandavas whatever lies within my power. You shall be the queen of kings, for I speak the truth. The heavens may fall, and the Himalayas may move. The earth may crack, the ocean can dry up, but know for certain, O Draupadee, my words will never prove false. So it gives us a good impetus to read Bhagavad Gita and take shelter of the words, Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita. My words will never prove false. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you surrender to me, I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Ma shuchaha. Don't hesitate. Don't worry. Don't doubt. Don't fear. So that is what Krishna promises us in the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender to me, I reciprocate. So the Bhagavad Gita, by reading Bhagavad Gita, we develop faith, deep faith in Krishna. So let us continue to read Bhagavad Gita. Draupadee was solaced by Krishna's words. She did not doubt that he acted only for her ultimate welfare. The princess glanced across at Arjuna, because it was Arjuna who won her in the Swayamvara. And it's mentioned in the Mahabharata that of all her 5 husbands, Arjuna was her favorite. So, Arjuna now speaks. O lotus-eyed lady, do not weep. What Krishna has said will come to pass. It cannot be otherwise. Standing by his sister's side, Drishtadyumna declared, I shall slay Dronacharya. Our brother Shikandi will kill Bhishma, because that's the only one who could kill Bhishma. Bhishma cannot be killed by anyone but Shikandi. He was born to take that revenge. Bhima will kill Duryodhan, and Arjuna will kill Karna. Karna, who offered you such an unbearable offense in the Sabha. Dear sister, with Ram and Krishna's assistance, even Indra cannot conquer us. What then can be said of Dhritarashtra's sons? To be continued. Everybody chant. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This next section is called Why Krishna Was Not Present at the Gambling Match. All present now turned again toward Krishna. Looking at Yudhishtira, Krishna said, O Lord of the earth, Had I not been otherwise engaged at the time, I would have personally come to prevent the gambling match. By pointing out the evils associated with gambling, I would have won the support of Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and Bhalika. Between us, we would surely have swayed the blind king from his crooked purpose. The Brahmins present gathered around to hear Krishna speak, and he glanced at them with affection. Indulgence in illicit sex, gambling, hunting, and intoxication are the four evils which beset men and deprive them of their prosperity. Gambling is particularly marked by the destruction of property, misfortune, and the squandering of one's wealth. Gambling only leads to harsh words and enmity. Krishna said that he would have pointed this out to Dhritarashtra, and if the king did not listen, Krishna would have used force to bring him to his senses. Krishna continues, and if anyone had supported the king in his ignorance, I would have destroyed them all. All this would surely have taken place, O Yudhishtira, if I had not been away from Dwaraka at that time. It was only upon my return that Satyaki informed me of the events in Hastinapur. Immediately upon receiving the news, I came here. My heart is pained to see you now, overcome by calamity and sunk into misfortune. Yudhishthira asked Krishna where he had been during the gambling match. Krishna explained that he had gone to do battle with a king named Shalva, who was a friend of Shishupal. When Shalva heard that Krishna had killed Shishupal, he went to Dwaraka and attacked the city. While Krishna was in Indraprastha, Shalva owned a great airship which resembled a flying city. He had received this wonderful airship as a gift from who? Lord, you said that. Very good. From Lord Shiva had given him. In battle, Shalva used it as a base from which to attack his foes. Raining down weapons of every kind, Shalva had challenged Krishna. Not realizing that Krishna was absent from Dwaraka. After wreaking havoc in Dwaraka, Shalva had returned to his own city. Then when Krishna returned to Dwaraka, Krishna fought with Shalva, and when the fight with Shalva was going on, at one point, Shalva in his airplane produced Vasudeva, Krishna's father. And Shalva said to Krishna, watch, I will kill your father right before you. And he cuts off Vasudeva's head. And for a moment, Krishna is, oh no. And Krishna was visibly overcome. But then, right after Shalva had killed, Shalva disappeared. And Krishna said, wait a second. This is magic trick of Shalva. He couldn't have possibly killed my father. Why? Balaram is there because Balaram is the patron father of Dwaraka. He protects Dwaraka. Krishna said, no, this is magic trick of Shalva. And after all, where's the dead body? No. So although for a moment Krishna was overcome by grief because his father was killed, which is so nice. Even Krishna has feelings, even though it's Krishna who tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, Natvam sochitam arhasi, don't lament. Yeah, but when it comes to his father, it's a different story. So that's natural. That's natural. But still, that Natvam sochitam is still true, because we should not lament so much that we forget our duties. We forget, yes, there's going to be lamentation. I'm sure even my wife will cry when I die. A little bit. But we should not become consumed or overwhelmed that we forget who we are, we forget our duties. So after that, then Krishna really fought with Shalva and used his weapon, Sudarshan Chakra, and finally killed Shalva. All right, everybody chant the Maha Mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this next part is called Draupadee Cries Out to Yudhishtira. Draupadee, however, was still sorrowful. She found the course of events that led up to their exile difficult, and she burned with the humiliation they had all received at the hands of Duryodhana. One evening, sitting alone with Yudhisthira, she revealed her feelings. O king, when I think of the wicked Duryodhana and his followers living happily in Hastinapur, after having sent you to the forest, my heart burns. Without doubt, he is delighting in our misfortune. And that was certainly true. That becomes apparent throughout the 12 years. When you set out for the forest, all the Kurus cried, except the wretched Duryodhana, Karna, Shakuni, and that vicious, who? Dushashan. Because he was the one that dragged her, right, out of the room. Draupadi again found herself weeping. She remembered her parting words with Kunti and Gandhari. Both of them had grieved at her humiliation. How long would it be before she was avenged and the wrongdoers punished? She continues, seeing you seated here on this grass mat, and remembering your ivory throne crusted with jewels, I feel such anguish that I can hardly look at you. Your body is smeared with mud from the riverbank, when it once was daubed with the finest sandalwood paste. You once wore costly silk garments. Now you wear deerskins and tree bark. How can I bear to see my other husbands, who were once waited upon by numerous servants? Now they are scouring the forest for food. Draupadee's sorrow suddenly turned to anger. All this is due to the evil schemes of sinful men. O king, does your plight not arouse anger in you? Why do you remain so peaceful? Look at Bhima, glancing at you again and again, constrained only by his love for you. He does not rise up and destroy the Kauravas. Yes, many times Bhima was the one who said, just give me the word. I'll go right now. I'll kill all of them. Time after time, Bhima just waiting for Yudhisthira to just say the word. But nope. Yudhisthira says, not now. Now's not the time. Bhima that anger is pent up. For 13 years, the anger is pent up. Honoring your promise, Bhima sits containing his anger. Look too at Arjuna. He understands Bhima's mind and is forever pacifying him. By the power of Arjuna's bow, thousands of kings were obliged to wait upon the Brahmins at your Rajasuya sacrifice. Now that same Arjuna has become grief-stricken. Does this not make you angry? Look at Madri's youthful sons. Who are those? Nakul and Sahadev. They are as dear to you as they are to your mother Kunti. Now they are forced to live the hard lives of ascetics. Does this not make you angry? Yes, a wife knows how to push the right buttons. Am I right, husbands? Huh? They still know how to do it. She continues, I cannot understand why you have not risen up to destroy the Kauravas. Surely, after all that has happened, such a response would be in accord with morality. Is your discrimination failing? It is always appropriate for a Kshatriya to show anger when sin is committed. And sin has surely been committed by the Kauravas. How can you sit here as if you forgive them? If a king cannot distinguish between the time to be angry and the time to forgive, then that king is lost. Now listen what she says next. I also know the scripture. Good for Draupadee, huh? I also know the scripture. And scripture states that Duryodhan and his brothers deserve to be punished. Scripture states that the humble and ever-forgiving person is always neglected, while one who is powerful and assails other at the appropriate time is respected as a king. To be continued. Everyone, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this section is called Anger, the Second Gate to Hell. Because we know from the Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 doors or 3 gates to hell. Lust, anger, greed. These are the 3 gates. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, every sane man should give these up. So anger is the second. We're going to hear from Yudhishtira about anger. Yudhishthira looked with compassion upon his wife Draupadee. She had suffered so much, and if anything stirred Yudhishthira's heart, it was her suffering, for which he felt he had been the cause, which is true. He was the one that agreed to the gambling. Yes, his heart still burned when he thought of how she was dragged into the assembly hall. The pain of that moment would stay with him for the rest of his life. But this was not the time to make war. Draupadee could not understand the entire situation, so he replied gently to her. O intelligent lady, through anger, We may sometimes gain wealth, but anger ultimately destroys mankind. Real prosperity crowns one who conquers anger and brings adversity to one whom anger controls. Anger is the root of all destruction. An angry man commits sin blindly. An angry man will kill even his preceptor. An angry man insults his elders. An angry man cannot distinguish between right and wrong. There is nothing an angry man might not say or do, even to the point of sending himself to death's abode. Knowing this, I will not indulge in anger, O Draupadee. Rather, I will strive to control it. And on the other side, who was always angry? Duryodhana. He was always angry, always jealous. And later on it's pointed out, even by his father, Dhritarashtra says to Duryodhana, you have all the wealth of the Pandavas, you have their kingdom, you have more than enough to enjoy, and still you're not happy? So that's the problem. Greed. In Duryodhana's case, lust, anger, he's the epitome of all three. He's it. He's the poster child for the age of Kali. There he is. Whenever I think about Kali Yuga, I just think, oh yes, Duryodhana, there he is. All right. Now, the next part ties in. So on one hand, you have anger. Now let's see what Yudhishtira says now. Draupadi listened respectfully. She knew her husband's grasp of religion and morality was unsurpassed. After all, who is he? He's Dharmaraj. He's the son of Yamaraj, so he's the personification of religion. He was capable of even instructing the demigods. Sitting on a simple mat of kusha grass, Yudhishthira continued. When a weak man is oppressed by one more powerful, he should not display anger, lest he bring about his own destruction. There are no blessed regions in the hereafter for those who destroy themselves. Thus the weak should always control their anger. Only fools praise anger, considering it equivalent to energy. The wise keep anger at a distance. The man consumed by anger does not easily acquire generosity, dignity, courage, skill, or the other attributes possessed by men of character. The wise consider a man of character is one who restrains his wrath. The pious always praise such a man because they understand that a forgiving man is always victorious. One who represses anger, even when antagonized, rejoices in the next world. So there was the incident when Lord Shiva's father-in-law, Daksha, was blaspheming him in the open assembly at the sacrifice. Yet Lord Shiva remained silent. It's a good example. I mean, for someone to get angry like Lord Shiva, ain't nobody better. He is the Lord's anger personified when it comes time for destruction. But He remained silent. He did not speak a word of retaliation. Very, very difficult if you're in a room and somebody is blaspheming you. And Krishna the same way. At the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna let Shishupal go on and on and on. Only when it was going to be a war right there, Krishna didn't want Yudhishthira's sacrifice to be spoiled. That's when Krishna did something. And besides that, we learn here that Krishna promised Shishupal's mother that he would tolerate 100 offenses. Even he should have been killed from the first one. He promised Shishupal, I'll wait for 100. So at that Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna kept count. I guess Krishna kept count. And he said, his time is up. It's time for him to go. But still, Krishna was very restrained. And when Shishupal was talking, Krishna just sat there, didn't say anything. Amazing. Amazing. Now it says here by Yudhishthira, a forgiving man is always victorious. There's a statement in the Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the reasons why Lord Brahma is in that position is because he has acquired this quality of forgiveness and tolerance. That's one of the reasons why that particular person is in the post of Lord Brahma. Yudhishthira continues. Because of this, it is said that a wise man, whether strong or weak, and even if in difficulty, should always forgive his persecutor. And a lot of times over the years, people have asked me, confidentially, they have written to me asking me, and I've always said, best policy, forgive and forget. Best policy. By now, Yudhishthira's brothers had gathered and were listening. Yudhishthira went on describing the glories of forgiveness. So we'll stop here and we'll do that next. Everybody chant the Maha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. By now, Yudhishthira's brothers had gathered and were listening. Yudhishthira went on describing the glories of forgiveness. If there were not persons in this world who exercise forgiveness, then chaos would soon prevail. If kings and other superiors give way to anger, then the distressed people would quickly meet with ruin. If inferiors do not tolerate their superiors' admonishments, then sin will take root and destroy all of mankind. I shall now recite to you the verse spoken in ancient times by the Rishi Kashyapa. Forgiveness is virtue. Forgiveness is sacrifice. Forgiveness is the Vedas. Forgiveness is purity. Forgiveness is penance. Forgiveness is truth, piety, religion, and the very holy Narayan himself. Thus forgiveness, and through forgiveness, the universe is sustained. And by practicing forgiveness, a man can attain to everlasting regions of bliss. How then can I renounce forgiveness, O Draupadee, in which is established spirituality, truth, wisdom, and the three worlds? Both this world and the next belong to the forgiving person. Therefore, forgiveness is considered the highest virtue. Yudhisthira smiled at his wife. Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, Kripa, and the other Kuru elders, they all desire peace. Vyasadeva and the other rishis also praise peace, Panchali. Therefore, let us first strive for a peaceful settlement. If Dhritarashtra yields to temptation and does not return our kingdom, then the Bharata race will be destroyed. But let me not be the cause, O princess. Forgiveness and humility, both of which are unknown to Duryodhana, are the qualities of the self-controlled. They constitute eternal virtue. I shall therefore adopt them. Draupadi was still doubtful. If virtue conferred victory and success on a man, then how could Yudhishthira have undergone such a calamity? She's pretty smart, this one. She knows. Yudhishthira had never strayed from virtue at any time. Even during the gambling match, he acted only with virtuous intentions. But now he was cast into misfortune, and the sinful Duryodhana enjoyed prosperity. The princess said, "It seems to me, O king, that although you always protect virtue, virtue has not protected you. Even the celestials know that you live only by virtue. I am sure you would abandon me and your brothers before abandoning virtue. You serve the Brahmins with everything you possess. You never disregard your elders, equals, or even inferiors. And although you conquered the earth, you never became proud. You have performed great sacrifices and have given unlimited charity. Why, even now, while living a life of hardship in the forest, your virtue has suffered no diminishment." Draupadi looked at her husband in the eyes as she made her point. "Despite all this, still your intelligence was perverted by destiny, and you gambled everything away. Your wealth, kingdom, brothers, even me. How could one like you, who was simple, gentle, modest, liberal, and truthful, be drawn to gambling? Gambling is a vice. I just cannot understand how it is possible." Although Draupadi understood that everything was under the control of the Supreme Lord, she felt her faith challenged by Yudhishthira's seemingly inexplicable situation. "Surely, O king, all creatures are made to act by the Lord, even as a puppet is moved by its controller. No one can pass a moment independently. God ordains our happiness and distress in accord with the results of our past actions. Everyone depends upon the Lord. He brings us together and uses us as instruments to fulfill each other's karma." So Draupadi knows. She's very learned here. "Thus it seems to me that it is the Lord who has brought about your calamity. But how has he sanctioned such injustice? Injustice so contrary to the ways of virtue and truth. If the Lord is not to blame, then it means that the controlling principle is the one who has the most power." And there's even an expression. I remember when I was going to school, there was this thing, might makes right. I don't know if you learned that in your schools, but in America, you would hear that all the time. Might makes right. That you have the power, you're the superior, and whatever you do, that's all right. So that's what Draupadee is pointing out. If actions are not bound with God-given consequences, then I lament for those who are not powerful. So now let's see. The wife has spoken, the husband will respond. Yudhisthira could see that his wife was bewildered by grief and sorrow. He said to her, "O gentle lady, born from sacrifice," because yes, she was born along with her brother from the fire sacrifice. "O gentle lady, although your speech is sweet and well articulated, it is atheistic." Wow. "No one should ever perform virtue with a desire to gain its fruits. Such a sinful trader of virtue will never reap the results. I practice virtue only because I desire to follow the Vedas and satisfy the Lord. The Vedas state that one who doubts virtue is destined to be born among the brutes, meaning the animals. One who doubts religion, virtue, and the words of the rishis is excluded from the regions of immortality and bliss. Such a person is considered lower than a thief. So when Yudhisthira here is saying that no one should perform virtue with the desire to gain its fruits, that's the mode of passion. Yudhisthira, on the other hand, shows that he's in the mode of goodness. He says, I practice virtue only because the Vedas tell me to, and I want to please the Lord. That's the mode of goodness. Draupadee bowed her head as her husband continued. O thin-waisted lady, you have seen with your own eyes the results of virtue in such immortal sages as Markandeya, Vyasadeva, Maitreya, and the celestial sage Narada. All of these persons appear in this Mahabharata. All of these, all four of them appear and have dealings with the Pandavas. And Maitreya also curses Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana later. All these shining and ever blissful rishis describe virtue as the foremost duty. If the pieties practiced by the virtuous bore no fruits, then this world would long ago have been covered by darkness. No one would care to acquire knowledge or pursue liberation or even wealth. All men would have lived like beasts, and the world would be thrown into confusion. That's what's happening in this age of Kali. We see day by day, virtue is diminishing day by day. Our elected officials are proving to us day by day how they have no virtue. The lawyers, the judge, because it's Kali Yuga. Right? Everybody knows if you have to go to court and you can't pay for an attorney, goodbye. I just heard that in many states here in this country, there's a law that if you can't afford an attorney, then the state is supposed to supply you with, I forget the actual term, a court-appointed attorney. But here's the catch. These guys are so backlogged that you're not going to get them. So you don't have money, no justice. Welcome to Kali Yuga. And if you're wealthy, well, then you can be the biggest crook. But now I can afford the fancy Bel Air and Beverlywood lawyer, paid lots of money, and by his lying and twisting, the murderer, the criminal, goes scot-free. Kali Yuga, folks. Let's continue. The Brahmins, who had by now also come to hear Yudhishthira's speech, nodded in agreement. Darkness had set in, and fires now burned in the great clearing where they sat. Such a nice description. You can see the forest. The fires are burning at night. Right? This is India. Your India. Right? Sun is setting just like the sun is setting now. Draupadi could hear the flames crackling as well as the sounds of crickets. That means everybody was wrapped in attention to hear Yudhishthira. But in the background, crackling of the fire, the sounds of the crickets. As Yudhishthira continued, so here is the key line of Yudhishthira. Do not doubt virtue just because you do not see its results. Without doubt, the fruits will manifest in due course of time, as will the fruits of sin. The fruits of true virtue are eternal and indestructible, leading one to the highest regions of happiness. Therefore, do not speak ill of God. Try to understand the Supreme Being and his desires, O Draupadi. Always bow down to him, God, for this will be your own good. Now, several years ago, I was asked by one of our Namahat people, and he asked me the same thing. He said, Prabhu, I work hard, I go to temple, I am a good man, but I'm barely making enough money to feed my family and pay the rent. And my neighbor doesn't go to temple. He lies, he cheats, and he's doing so good. And then this person, maybe I should be like him. So that's why this section really hits home for me. I had not read this. So what did I say to him at that time? I said to him that, first of all, you don't know how Krishna is doing things. Kamsa was still doing his nonsense for 11 years after Krishna was born. Krishna didn't kill him right away. For 11 years, Kamsa was doing all his nonsense. Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, they were allowed to have a reign of terror for so long. So I said to him, you don't know what is God's timetable. But rest assured, your neighbor who you say is doing this, his day is coming. Don't worry. You just have to be patient. The day will come when he will get. And we've seen it. There was not once, but we see famous actor or actress or athlete making millions of dollars. All of a sudden, one day, broke. Everything finished. Just like that. We see it with some of these singers and actress and actor, right? There was that one guy, Christopher Reeves. He was always the Superman star. And one day, and he was king. Every movie he made, blockbuster, millions of dollars. He goes riding on a horse, falls off the horse, becomes paraplegic, and you would see him in a wheelchair. He can no longer. Here was now look at Superman, huh? That means what? His ticket was called by Yamaraj. Now you pay. So, don't worry about your neighbor. Worry about yourself. Your neighbor is going to get his sooner or later. Like I always say, you can cheat the IRS, that's all right. But Yamaraj and Chitragupta, his accountant, everything is tallied. And you know, if you get stopped by the police, they have a computer in the car and they check to see, is this guy, they go by the license plate. And if you have any kind of criminal record, it prints out right there for the policeman so he knows, oh, hey, I'm dealing with such and such. It's called a rap sheet. Every criminal offense. So Yamaraj has got that, the list. But if you're a devotee, you have a different list. Prabhupada used to say that when you're a devotee, every little devotional thing that you did is written down. And nobody can touch that. Like so many people, they lost their 401ks and this and that. Nothing will happen to your bhakti account. Your name is there, and every time you chanted Hare Krishna, every time you did Arati, every time you came to Namahat program, every time you read Bhagavad Gita, it's all written down. Oh, so when time comes, oh, Sachi Sutta Vashista. We have a nice airplane for you. Come and go back home, back to Godhead. Everybody chant the Maha Mantra. Krishna is God.